I will tell you that we have been clear that we, number one, do not believe that the ICC has jurisdiction in this matter.
We remain deeply concerned by the prosecutor's rush to seek arrest warrants and the troubling process errors that led to this decision. The United States has been clear that the ICC does not have jurisdiction over this matter. You've heard us say this before. We fundamentally reject that the ICC has jurisdiction over this situation. And so that's something that we've been pretty clear about and will continue to do so.
Hello, lovely people. How are you? I hope you're enjoying the festive season. Here's a humble request before I start my video today. First of all, thank you very much for subscribing to my channel and showering your love over the last few months. But to ensure that you are alerted each time I post my video, you also need to turn the notification, also known as bell icon, on. Please do that if you haven't already done so. Okay, now that this formality is over, let's return to today's topic. So Israeli terrorists, also known as IDF soldiers, are on the run, literally on the run, as they are fast realizing the pitfalls of committing genocide live through people's mobile devices. Their sponsors in the US, the UK, the EU, Canada, and Australia may have provided them protection up until now, but not any longer. You remember my video report last week about 2 IDF soldiers being denied entry into Australia for their involvement in the genocide of Palestinians? You can watch that video here. Now there are reports of at least 2 IDF soldiers fleeing, first from Sri Lanka and then Thailand, 2 major Asian countries. According to Israeli news platform, not mine, Times of Israel, IDF terrorist Gallant was visiting Sri Lanka on a holiday when his bosses in Israel ordered him to immediately flee from the South Asian country. Why? Because their bosses were fearing his arrest. This was after the Hind Raja Foundation, a group set up to document Israeli war crimes and approach the International Criminal Court to act against the perpetrators of the genocide against Palestinians, made his presence in Sri Lanka public. Hind Raja Foundation, named after the 6-year-old Palestinian angel who Israeli terrorists had murdered by firing more than 300 rounds of bullets at her, contacted authorities in Sri Lanka, Interpol, and the ICC and asked them to immediately arrest Gallant. Now, who is this Gallant? We know almost every single genocide enabler and the perpetrators of the genocide because they have been documenting their brutal action on social media. Farrenbrook had posted a video on his Instagram account on the 9th of August showing the dead bodies of murdered Palestinian civilians. In the video, which I can't share here, but you can watch on our Telegram channel, details are there on the screen, Farrenbrook was seen laughing as one of his fellow terrorists called him the Terminator. After the Hind Raja Foundation alerted authorities in Sri Lanka, Interpol and the ICC, Farrenbrook's bosses in the terrorist group's headquarters in Tel Aviv developed cold feet and immediately ordered him to flee. To justify its action, one IDF spokesperson said, and I quote, "The IDF does everything it can and uses all available means to protect its service members at home and abroad." End of quote. In another incident, another IDF terrorist, identified as Lidor Kandalkar, was ordered to flee Thailand, where he had arrived on a holiday. Lidor Kandalkar was a part of the IDF's Volcano Company Combat Engineering Unit and was responsible for demolishing dozens of Palestinian homes in Gaza. As soon as the Hind Raja Foundation learnt about his presence, they acted swiftly to inform first Thai authorities and then the ICC, urging them to arrest Kandalkar. This prompted the IDF to order Kandalkar to flee Thailand. Only last month, one IDF terrorist was told to flee Cyprus, fearing similar arrest. Last month, the IDF had also reportedly ordered around 30 odd terrorists from its group to not travel abroad, since the Hind Raja Foundation had identified them and sent their names to the ICC. They were advised to first check with the Israeli Foreign Ministry regarding the level of danger in any country they wish to visit. For far too long, these terrorists and their masters, such as Benjamin Netanyahu, Yoav Gallant, and other members of the Zionist regime in Israel, have escaped the clutches of the ICC. This is because they enjoyed the protection from the rogue regime of the US. Remember how Zionist Matthew Miller reacted when he was asked about the ICC's arrest warrant in November? He has shamelessly said that he rejected the ICC because the court did not have jurisdiction on Israel.
Let me ask you on the ICC ruling. Now, many of your allies, including countries in the European Union, most countries in the European Union and others, they have agreed to this ruling, maybe with the exception of Hungary or a couple of other places. Do you consider Netanyahu to be a war criminal?
So that certainly is not an assessment that we have made, and I will tell you that we have been clear that we, number one, do not believe that the ICC has jurisdiction in this matter, and two, that we have had real concerns about this proceeding on its own, grounded fundamentally in the rules of the court, that this is supposed to be a court of limited jurisdiction, grounded in the rules of complementarity. When there are countries that have investigations going on, and we know that Israel has hundreds of open investigations into potential violations of international humanitarian law or violations of the IDF's own code of conduct, that the ICC is supposed to be a court of last resort after those investigations have proceeded. And we have seen them take that seriously in other cases. With respect to Venezuela, for example, where they have waited until the end of a country's proceedings before moving forward, they declined to do so here, and that's why we have the concerns that we have.
So you believe that the ICC should continue to do its work?
Well,
It should not be sort of sanctions or pursued by, we heard Senator Cotton, for instance, who wanted to invade the Hague.
I don't have any comment on the comments.
I'm just saying
on
that,
the lines you hear from the Hill. We are consulting with our allies and partners about this decision and how to respond to it. I don't have anything further
Okay,
to
let me
say.
ask you one last question on this issue.
Yeah.
We know that the former
You're gonna get a taken question on that one. Go ahead.
the former Minister of Defense, Israeli Minister of Defense, will be coming to the United States soon, I guess. Is that just like a message saying your ruling does not apply?
The former Minister of Defense?
Yes, Mr. Gallant.
I'm not aware of his travel, but look, the United States is not a party to the ICC in any event. Was not a party to has never been a party to the ICC.
So no one has jurisdiction on Israel. The ICC doesn't have, the UN doesn't have, Amnesty Human Rights Watch don't have. In other words, Israel has the freedom to showcase its barbarism with the support of the rogue members of the Biden regime, and it must never face any consequences. Just look at the reaction from this disgraceful White House spokesperson. Watch her body language when she rejects the ICC with utter disgust. And these horrible people lecture the world on the rule of law and human rights?
I wanted to ask you also about the ICC's issuing arrest warrants for several top officials, including Netanyahu, over Israel's conduct in this war. I know that the U.S. rejected this decision. Does the administration see this ruling as a threat to Israel's ability to defend itself? And also Republican Senator Lindsey Graham is calling for the Senate to sanction the ICC after this decision. Is that a measure that the White House would support?
Yeah, so a couple things. Let me just say, because this is the first time I've had an opportunity to speak to this at the podium, so let me just say more broadly that we fundamentally reject the court's decision to issue arrest warrants for senior Israel officials. We remain deeply concerned by the prosecutor's rush to seek arrest warrants and the troubling process errors that led to this decision. The United States has been clear that the ICC does not have jurisdiction over this matter. You've heard us say this before. Whatever this prosecutor might imply, there is no evidence, none, between Israel and Hamas. There's just none. In coordination with partners, including Israel, we are discussing certainly those next steps, what that's going to look like. And to your question about sanctions, that's basically kind of just answered it in that last part of what I said. We're in consultation with our partners and also, which include Israel, about our next steps. We fundamentally reject that the ICC has jurisdiction over this situation. And so that's something that we've been pretty clear about, and we'll continue to do so.
It's not that the US and the rogue members of the Biden regime do not respect the ICC. Of course they do. They don't respect the ICC only in the case of Israel. The ICC is kosher when it comes to Vladimir Putin or now Bashar al-Assad.
The president said yesterday that the Assad regime, or Assad himself, should be held accountable. Will you support his application to stand in front of the ICC as a war criminal who committed crimes against humanity?
So we support the work of the ICC. I know that obviously we have disagreed with their hold on. I'm gonna let me address it.
You support the work of the ICC
we do
until they do something about
so
it.
we have had a long. Let me just answer the question.
you don't like it
You
at
know
all,
what, Matt?
or
Let
the
me,
US.
Matt, let me answer the question because I was addressing that before you interrupted me. We obviously have had a jurisdictional dispute with them as it relates to cases against Israel. That is a long-standing jurisdictional dispute. But that said, we have also made clear that we support broadly their work, and we have supported their work in other cases.
This Zionist war criminal Matthew Miller had the audacity to reject the findings of even an Israeli historian when he called Israeli action in Gaza a genocide.
Now, finally, I know that we spoke last week with Gallant about the Amnesty International report, and you refused to acknowledge that what Israel is doing is basically genocide in Gaza. You're saying that it did not rise to the level of genocide and so on. I mean, I don't know what is what is the threshold for destruction and killing and so on that would qualify for genocide. But let me bring your attention to a historian, an Israeli historian, had documented, voluminous documents and so on, that basically says that Israel had the intent and carried out those genocidal intents.
So
we've comment on that?
Yeah, we have seen that report. As you know, we have not concurred with past findings regarding genocide, and we don't again with this report. We do remain deeply concerned by the reports of civilian harm in this conflict, and we continue to emphasize that all parties must comply with international humanitarian law.
Meanwhile, Israel continues to slaughter more innocent people in Gaza. As I speak, they are dropping lethal bombs supplied by the US and helped by the UK on Kamal Adwan Hospital in North Gaza. This hospital is the last functioning hospital in Gaza, since Israeli butchers have flattened every single hospital there. Just put yourself into their shoes, into the shoes of Palestinians, to understand the level of destruction Israeli terrorists have been causing. And the likes of Matthew Miller would tell you that this is in self-defense. Self-defense against unarmed Palestinians who are being forced to die of starvation, famine, and various diseases. Hope Israeli butchers currently on the run soon pay for their war crimes. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymeacoffee.com and Patreon. If you too think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.